at a-hole for telling my sister I'm not going to help her with her house after she let my niece break our family video game console? My sister and her husband fell on hard times during COVID and had to put a lot of money into some issues that came up with their house. She asked me if I could help them repaint a couple of the affected rooms, and I said yes. I have experience there and don't mind helping. I was due to help next week, but last week while she and my niece, her daughter, were visiting, she let niece break our family PS5. So what happened? Sister and niece came over. My son was playing the PS5 in the living room. I went to grab something my sister asked for. When I came back, the kids were fighting and my son was upset because the PS5 was broken. My sister was standing there watching the whole thing. I asked what happened, and the kids were talking over each other. My sister wasn't saying anything. Niece said my son wouldn't share and he pulled too hard. My son told me he was going to let her play once he got the characters safe because he was in the middle of his section. And she lost it and kicked the console over and stomped it with her foot and pulled on the cable really hard. My sister just kept saying my son wouldn't let her daughter play and that he should have let her play. I told her that didn't give niece the right to break it. She told me it's reckless letting a kid my son's age play. She told me niece didn't do it, but then niece proceeded to kick it in front of me. At which point I said she needed to leave. Luckily I was able to get it repaired, but it cost me money and my sister just said they didn't need to pay and it was my fault. I told her then that I'm not helping her paint now, that I'm not giving up my free labor for her after she did nothing while an expensive and hard to get console was broken. She told me I couldn't do that, and it was me being petty, mean, and an a-hole, and a bad sister, and that I should be more understanding. She told me it wasn't her job to supervise the kids, and I shouldn't take the fight out on her. Am I the a-hole? I only question it because I know they have been really hard up after all this, and haven't finished things still because of the financial stresses. Not the a-hole. And it was her job to supervise her kid. She's lucky you're not telling her she's financially responsible to replace/fix the item her child broke during a temper tantrum. I wouldn't be going out of my way to provide her free labor either. If she bring it up, you need to say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize not suing you for destruction of property was not a sisterly thing to do. I'll call my lawyer now and after filing the lawsuit, I'll come and help you if you want." That ought to shut her up. I would be tempted to go a more petty route. Help her paint. Walk in, grab an extension and paint the ceiling with "You owe me XXX for PS5 repair," and walk out. Painting the ceiling, while not difficult, may be more inconvenient as the likelihood of dear old sister having white ceiling paint on hand is low. Heck, an even pettier route would be to paint in a dark color which would require several coats to cover up. Not the a-hole. Bring your son and instruct him to knock over as many paint cans as possible. Then say that it wasn't your responsibility to watch him. She told me it wasn't her job to supervise the kids and I shouldn't take the fight out on her. So, she has no responsibility for supervising her own daughter? OP, don't ever lift a finger for her or allow her into your home until she pays you back every cent. That poor daughter. She will need therapy after being raised like this. More like poor everyone else around her. Kids raised like that normally just become dangerous nuisance to everyone else and don't even care. Next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for kicking my mom out of my house?" I'm graduating college in a few days. My mom and dad flew into town to see me and my dad brought his wife. My mom went and visited her parents while I spent time with my dad. My mom is staying at my house and my dad is in a hotel. I got home last night and my mom tells me she's changing her plane ticket to leave immediately after I graduate. I ask her why, and she says she hates my dad and his wife and doesn't want them around. She literally hasn't seen my dad yet on this trip or since I was 18, which was nearly 10 years ago. I told her if she doesn't want to be here, then she should just leave. Then she said that I love my dad more than her, that I'm calling her a parent, etc. I never said those things. Then she claimed my dad put me up to it to kick her out. None of it is true. I told her I'm not picking sides. I'm picking me. This is my weekend and I want both my parents at my graduation. I told her she divorced him over 20 years ago and to get the hell over it. She's not going to make me feel guilty for wanting a relationship with my dad and told her to get out. Yes, my dad was a bad husband. No, he wasn't abusive mentally or physically to my mom. He had poor money issues and often picked his family over her. She divorced him. But he was a good father to me all my life. She let me take her to her parents' house after an hour of her walking around my town because she stormed out. I dropped her off and she said, "Thanks for nothing." And now she won't talk to me. Not a hole. Now for the top comments. Not a hole. I'm not picking sides. I'm picking me. Godlike response. Opie is way more prepared for the adult world than mom is. Not a hole. It sucks when parents make kids choose sides, regardless of age. You are not in the wrong here, especially since you did your best to accommodate both sides. Not a hole. You can't accommodate everyone else all of the time. However, I think your mom has some challenges that stem from being not the priority and feeling that someone else has been picked over her. You can see this in the way she reacted to you, and by your comment that your father was a bad husband because he prioritized his family over her. In which case, it's on the mom to go see a therapist to work out her issues. Opie can't tiptoe the rest of her life ignoring her relationship with her own father to try and please her mother. Info. If I'm good at math, that makes you 28, so definitely not a child. Has your mom ever acted like this before? I wonder if visiting her parents set something off and she was in the midst of an anxiety attack. She did the same thing when I graduated high school. I never confronted her at that time. She did it in 2019 when I said I wanted to move to the same city as him. She said I was picking him over her if I moved. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my dad money from my trust fund? I, 18 female, currently live with my dad, 65 male, and sister, 14 female. Recently, my relationship with my dad has turned sour, and home life has started to become unbearable for me. Since I've turned 18, I'm able to claim my child trust fund, and to my knowledge, there is at least around £1,500 in the account. My dad knows this, and has been non-stop pestering me to give him at least half of my money. I've told him that I plan on using the money to buy essentials and save for a future deposit on a place to live. But he doesn't listen. It argues that he deserves it since he had to put up with me the past 2 years. I won't go much into it, but I've had to drop out of college, and my mental health has been severely affected the past couple of years. My dad brings this up to guilt me and upset me. Every time he brings the topic of money up, it almost always ends in an argument. This came to a head yesterday where I was making some food for myself and my dad asked me when I'll get the money from my fund. I responded and said I didn't know just yet, but I plan on getting it as soon as I'm able. I don't know how, but this sent my dad into a rage, and he told me I'll only end up wasting it. And he called me ungrateful and selfish, along with a few rude names that accused me of keeping the money from him. I snapped and told him if he thinks he's entitled to something that belongs to me, then he's the selfish one. And he shouted at me, telling me yet again that he deserves it. And he brought up how he had to look after me when I stayed at home being lazy and not doing anything. He then went on to say that he should have just kicked me out as soon as he could have. I was so close to crying at this point, but I shouted at him and asked him what he values more, his daughter or money. He then told me he didn't value me and wanted the money since he doesn't have any. Since then, I haven't spoken to him, and I'm worried he will actually kick me out if I don't give him any. I've spoken to my boyfriend about this, and he tells me my dad's an a-hole for this and that he doesn't deserve anything from me. While I agree he doesn't deserve it, the money from my trust fund would help my family since we live off of my dad's disability benefits and his pension. So I feel like an a-hole for not giving the money knowing it would really help us out. So Reddit, would I be the a-hole if I kept the money for myself? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Not only is it your money, but the point of a trust is to protect that money from people like your father. The reason that the money releases when you turn 18 is because when you hit the age of majority, he no longer has any legal claim to it. Exactly. Whoever set up the trust for you had the option to give you cash, but instead went through a legal process to ensure that your dad can't access the money. Also, Opie, your dad being an A over money isn't gonna stop if you give in. Next time you get a little bit of cash, he'll be saying the same crap. Not a-hole. And please use the money to get out. How is your dad saying that he took care of you the last 2 years? You were a minor. That's his legal responsibility. He sounds unstable. Leave and never look back. 1,500 pounds isn't really enough to move out, I fear. 1,500 pounds is nothing. He'll have spent that in a week. If you give it to him, do you think he'll suddenly treat you better? Focus on finding a way out. Move in with your boyfriend or find roommates. Call Child Protective Services and see if they can help your younger sister out of there as well. It doesn't sound like a kid-friendly environment. Not a-hole. Imagine being so broke and so scummy at age 65 that you would harass your own child over a measly 1,500 pounds. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for taking my kids out to eat McDonald's only after dropping off sister-in-law's kids? Tuesday, my sister-in-law had a doctor's appointment come up that she forgot about. She had nobody to pick the kids up from school and wash them for a couple of hours, and when she asked me, I said yes. I dropped them off with her husband 2.5 hours after school ended. I then went to McDonald's with my kids. Then yesterday, one of my kids mentioned McDonald's and the new toy they got. One of their cousins overheard and told sister-in-law. Sister-in-law went nuts that I waited to take the kids until after and said it would have been a nice treat for them. I told her that given our difference in parenting when it comes to food and eating out, I made it clear a long time ago that I will not be responsible for feeding her kids unless absolutely necessary. So there is history there. My kids are 8 and 4. My niece is 9 and nephews are 8 and 6. Sister-in-law allows the kids to order and eat whatever they like. They control daily meals. They also get free rein in restaurants and fast food places. There's no limit to what they can order. That is not okay for me when they will order crazy amounts and then not eat it all. So I never gave in, but they will throw tantrums and curse and act out. After 7 different incidents like that in public and sister-in-law turning a deaf ear, I no longer am willing to do it. An example of what it can be like: took all 5 kids out to McDonald's once with my husband. Husband went to order and niece went with him. When it came to her order, she wanted 2 large fries, the big box of McNuggets, not sure how many they are honestly, and a chicken sandwich. She wanted the biggest drink too, and ice cream. My husband told her it was too much food. She started screaming and saying the boys wanted 2 fries and 2 burgers too. One of the boys said he wanted 2 McMuffins too. Husband and I did our best to calm them and ordered food, but they kept asking for more and we eventually left. That has happened so many times. And sometimes they will ask for a 2nd or 3rd ice cream too. It's the same if we ever tried to feed them at our house. Wouldn't eat what was prepared and wanted to dictate the menu. So we agreed no more. He told his sister before that we are not about to throw away money and cater to insane food requests from kids. It was a tough call for us because the kids are otherwise well behaved, but when it comes to food, they aren't. Sister-in-law said it was mean and hurtful to go to McDonald's after dropping the kids off and they felt left out, and I should be ashamed. She told me only a-holes do that to kids. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. There is no reality in which her reaction is reasonable. Sheesh. In her reality, it probably is. Good God. How emotionally attached are these kids to a freaking fast food restaurant that not going one time is this big of a deal and your sister-in-law is that worked up about it? Is there something more going on here, like the family being poor and not having money to make dinners or something? They've struggled before, but nothing like that ever seems to be going on. They can sure afford to spend a crap ton on waste food. Not a hole. Are they obese? Can't even imagine why an 8-year-old would want 2 large fries. I was just pregnant and couldn't eat even half of that while mine was pregnant on a hungry day. No weight issues. They're pretty damn slim, honestly. They wouldn't even really eat half what they order normally, but they still want to order it. Not a-hole. Only a-holes let their kids get so out of control with food that other people refuse to feed them. What you listed from the previous trip to McDonald's was insane. In the 80s, I worked at a McDonald's down the street from a professional football stadium. Sometimes the entire training camp would arrive via bus and order. Not a single one of those players ordered as much food as that child did. I haven't been at McDonald's in years, but last time I was there, the large was 20 chicken McNuggets. That child was ordering more than full-grown professional football players, and then wasting most of it. That is not going to serve her well in life. I wonder what's going to happen when the kids go back to in-school learning and she can't dictate the lunch menu. Or starts unpacking a lunch that size in front of her schoolmates, some who can barely afford their peanut butter sandwich. Oh, they get big lunches. I have seen what they get and what they will normally eat. They don't even eat half, I would say, and that is me being generous.